His fingers closed around her wrist like a warning. She didn't scream. She shook. The Mafia boss felt the raised marks under her sleeve, and his jaw tightened with something darker than rage. Who, he growled, dared to hurt you? Have you ever met someone who smiles like nothing is wrong while their body tells the truth? And what if the most feared man in the city became the only one willing to protect her? Before we dive in, if you feel that tension in your chest already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next story. And comment, I want more Mafia love stories if you'd like more episodes like this. Because this one is going to leave a mark. The office smelled like expensive smoke and rain-soaked wool. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city bled neon into the night. Sirens wailed far away, never close enough to matter here. Not in this building, not on this floor. Elena Rivera stood in the middle of the room like a wrong note in a symphony. She wasn't dressed like the women who usually came here. No glittering dresses, no bold perfume, no practiced laughs. Her coat was plain, her shoes were worn, and her hair looked like she'd tied it back with shaking hands in a prayer she didn't fully believe in. Her eyes were the worst part, not because they were plain, not because they were pretty, because they were tired. Tired in a way that didn't belong to someone her age. Dante Moretti watched her like he watched everything. Quietly, precisely, as if the world was a board and everyone else was pretending they didn't move pieces. He stood behind the desk, without sitting, broad shoulders cutting into the low light. His suit was black, simple, perfect. No flashy rings, no loud displays. The kind of man who didn't need to prove power because power had already decided he belonged to it. Two of his men waited by the door. Elena's gaze flicked to them, then back to Dante. She swallowed once. I didn't mean to... Her voice cracked on the last word like it didn't want to exist in this room. Dante didn't answer, because he wasn't listening to her apology. He was listening to her breathing, fast, shallow, like she'd run here, like she'd been chased the whole way. He stepped around the desk. Elena's shoulders tightened instantly, as if the air had turned sharp. Dante noticed everything, the way she kept her hands tucked into her sleeves, the way she angled her body so her left side stayed away from him, the way her eyes kept dropping to the door, calculating distance, escape, survival. A person doesn't learn that kind of calculation from a bad day. They learn it from someone who has taught them, again and again, that safety is temporary. "Look at me," Dante said softly. It wasn't a shout. It didn't need to be. Elena's chin lifted on instinct and immediately trembled as if her body regretted obeying. Dante's eyes narrowed, not with suspicion, but with recognition. He'd seen that tremble before, not in his world. His world had different kinds of fear. This tremble was older, deeper, personal. "What's your name?" he asked. "Elena," she whispered. "Elena Rivera." "Why are you here, Elena Rivera?" Her mouth opened, then closed. Her throat worked like she was trying to swallow a scream. I work downstairs," she managed, voice barely holding together. "At the club. I'm not supposed to be up here. I had to." Dante's men shifted behind her, restless. They didn't like "had to." It sounded like trouble. Dante didn't move his gaze. "Had to," he repeated. "Because..." Elena's eyes shone, but no tears fell, like she'd run out of them a long time ago. "There's something in the office," she said, words tumbling now, desperate. "In the manager's office. A file, a list, names, deliveries. I don't know what it means, but I know what it does. I heard them talking, and I think they're using your place to..." Her voice snapped. She flinched as if someone had slapped her. Dante's expression didn't change, but something in the room did. The air tightened. "Who's they?" Dante asked. Elena shook her head quickly, too quickly. Panic spilled through her like water through cracks. I can't say it. Not here." "You're in my office," Dante said, calm as a blade. "There is no 'not here.'" Elena's lips parted. She tried again, and then her phone buzzed in her pocket. One vibration, 2, 3. Elena went pale so fast it was like watching color drain from a painting. Her hands fumbled inside her coat, fingers shaking as she pulled the phone out. Dante didn't need to see the screen to know what it said. He watched her face instead. That's where the truth always lived. Elena's eyes widened. Her mouth opened like she couldn't breathe. She turned to the door. "I have to go," she whispered. Dante moved without thinking. He reached out and caught her wrist, just to stop her, just to steady her, just to keep her from bolting like a terrified animal. The moment his hand closed around her, Elena jolted like she'd been struck by electricity. A sound tore out of her, small and broken. Her whole body shook, and Dante felt it. Not just the fear, the marks, raised lines beneath her sleeve, uneven and tender, like someone had held her too tightly, too long, too often, like her skin remembered hands that never deserved to touch her. Dante's fingers stilled. His gaze dropped to where his hand held her, and his thumb, almost against his will, brushed the fabric back. Just enough. Just 1 inch. And there they were. Angry, red impressions around her wrist, fresh, deliberate, the kind of marks that weren't accidents, the kind of marks that came with ownership. Dante's jaw flexed. His grip loosened instantly, like he was afraid his touch would become the same thing. Elena stared at him, frozen, as if she'd just been exposed in a way she couldn't survive. Dante's voice dropped into something low and dangerous. Who, he growled, dared to hurt you? Elena's eyes filled with terror, not relief, because in her world, anger didn't mean protection. Anger meant punishment, and the last thing she trusted was a powerful man with rage in his voice. I'm fine, she lied quickly. It's nothing. I fell. Dante's eyes snapped back up. Don't, he said. One word, not harsh, worse, final. Elena's lips trembled. Dante took a slow breath, the kind of breath a man takes when he's holding a storm behind his ribs. He turned his head slightly. Marco. One of the men by the door straightened. Boss. Lock the floor. Marco blinked. We have guests. Lock, Dante repeated, quiet and lethal. Marco nodded and stepped out, already speaking into his earpiece. Elena's eyes darted wildly. No, please. You can't. I didn't come here to cause trouble. I just needed to warn you. And Dante moved closer, but slowly this time, like approaching a wounded animal. Elena, he said, gentler, look at me. She did, trembling, trying to hold herself together with sheer will. Dante lifted his hand, not to grab, not to trap. He held it open, palm up, an offer, not a demand. Tell me, he said, and I swear to you, no one touches you again. Elena stared at his hand like it was a trap disguised as kindness. In her head, a voice whispered, nothing is free, nothing is safe. Every promise comes with a price. She swallowed. Then she shook her head, stepping back. I can't, she whispered. You don't understand. Dante's eyes darkened, not with anger at her, but with anger at the invisible thing behind her fear. You're right, he said. I don't. He paused. Then, so make me. Elena's laugh came out wrong, thin, almost hysterical. Make you? You're Dante Moretti. Everyone knows what you do, what you are. And yet you came here, Dante said. Why? Because she didn't have a choice. Because a man named Victor Kane had taught her what happens when you don't obey. Elena's fingers tightened around her phone until her knuckles went white. Dante's gaze flicked to it. Who's calling? Elena's eyes flashed with panic. No one. The phone buzzed again. Dante didn't move, but the temperature in his voice dropped. Answer it, he said. Elena shook her head violently. No. Dante took a step closer, not threatening, just unavoidable. Elena, he said softly, if you're afraid of the voice on that phone more than you're afraid of me, then I need to hear it. Her chest rose and fell like she was drowning in air. Finally, with hands that barely worked, she swiped to answer and put it to her ear. Hello? A man's voice spilled out, smooth and cold, loud enough that Dante caught fragments. You're late. Elena flinched. You had to what? The man purred. Decide whether you still want your brother to keep breathing? Elena's eyes snapped shut. Dante's expression changed in a way that made even his own men outside the door go still. The voice continued, calm as poison. I told you what to do, Elena. You walk in, you take what I asked, you walk out. No heroics, no warnings, no playing brave. Elena's lips trembled. I'm trying. I can't get it. You can, the man said, and there was a smile in his tone. Because you know what happens when you say can't. Elena's fingers shook so hard she nearly dropped the phone. Dante's hand moved, fast, precise, and he took the phone from her. Elena gasped and reached for it, panic exploding. No! Dante lifted one finger, silent command. Elena froze, eyes wide, breathing tearing apart. Dante brought the phone to his ear. His voice was calm, almost polite. "Who is this?" There was a pause on the other end. Then the man chuckled. "Well," the voice said, "that's not Elena's voice." Dante's eyes narrowed. "And you're not supposed to be calling her," Dante replied, "so I'll ask again. Who are you?" The man laughed softly like he enjoyed this. "Tell Dante Moretti," he said, voice dropping like a whisper into a knife, "that some debts don't get paid with money." Dante's gaze slid to Elena, who looked like she might collapse. "Tell him," the man continued, "that his little club girl is a very expensive secret." Dante's fingers tightened on the phone. "And tell him," the man finished, "that if he tries to play savior, I'll snap the wrist you touched." The line went dead. Silence hit the room like a gunshot. Elena stared at Dante, terror shimmering in her eyes. Not because the threat had been made, but because Dante had heard it. Because now the danger wasn't just hers, it was his. And in Elena's experience, when you pull powerful men into your misery, you don't get rescued. You get punished for being the problem. Dante looked at the dark phone screen. Then he looked at Elena, and something in his face softened. Just a fraction. "Your brother," he said quietly. "How old?" Elena's voice barely worked. 19. "And the man who called," Dante asked, "does he have a name?" Elena swallowed hard. In her mind, Victor's hand tightened around her wrist. Victor's voice. "Say my name to the wrong person, and I'll make you watch." She shook her head quickly. "I can't." Dante stepped closer, lowering his voice like a promise. "Elena," he said, "I'm not asking you to be brave. I'm asking you to be honest." Her eyes filled. Finally, one tear slipped free, slow and humiliating. He's not supposed to exist," she whispered. "He's a ghost. People say he used to be law, and then he stopped being law." Dante's eyes sharpened. "A former cop," he murmured. Elena nodded, shaking. "He calls himself Victor Kane," she whispered, like saying it might summon him. Dante didn't react outwardly, but inside, something snapped into place. Victor Kane. Dante had heard the name before. Not in the clubs, not in the streets, in the quieter circles where men smiled while destroying lives with paperwork and threats. A predator in a suit. Not a gangster who shouted, a gangster who owned. Dante's voice stayed steady. "Why you?" Elena let out a broken laugh. "Because I'm easy." Dante's brow furrowed. Elena blinked at the floor. "I work 2 jobs. My mom is sick. My brother, he's all I have. Victor found out about the hospital bills and," her voice cracked, "he offered help. Then he made sure I couldn't refuse it anymore." Dante's hands curled into fists at his sides. "How?" he asked. Elena's shoulders caved inward. "Debt," she whispered, "and fear." She pulled her sleeve tighter as if hiding the marks could undo them. Dante stared at her wrist again, then looked away, like he was forcing himself not to turn that pain into immediate violence. "Why come to me?" Dante asked. Elena's throat worked. "Because he told me to take something from your office downstairs, a file, a flash drive, I don't know. And I heard enough to know it would hurt people. Maybe it would hurt you, and if I do it, I become like him." Her voice dropped into a whisper. "And if I don't, my brother disappears." Dante stood very still. In his mind, a different girl flashed, smaller, younger, trembling with bruises hidden under sleeves. His sister. The day he found out. The day he realized monsters didn't always wear masks. Sometimes they wore smiles and held keys and called themselves family. Dante swallowed the memory like broken glass. "Elena," he said softly, "has he ever—" He stopped, because he didn't want to make her say it. Elena's eyes lifted and the answer was already there, not in words, in the way she flinched from a gentle hand, in the way her body thought pain was inevitable. Dante's voice went quiet and lethal. "This ends," he said. Elena shook her head desperately. "No, you don't understand. He's connected. He has men everywhere. If you touch him..." Dante's gaze pinned her. "What happens?" he asked. "If no one ever touches him?" Elena froze. Dante took a step closer and spoke like a vow. "Then he keeps taking," Dante said, "and you keep shaking when someone reaches for you, and one day your brother learns to shake too." Elena's breath hitched. Dante lifted his hand again, not to grab, but to offer. "Come with me," he said. Elena stared at him, overwhelmed. Why? She whispered. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. Dante's eyes held hers. I know marks, he said, and I know monsters who think they can put their hands on what doesn't belong to them. Elena's voice trembled. And you're not a monster? Dante's jaw flexed. He didn't lie. I am, he said quietly, but not that kind. Elena's throat tightened. She looked at the door. The city beyond the glass. The life she used to imagine before survival replaced dreaming. What if you're just another cage? She whispered. Dante's voice softened, almost painful. Then you'll walk out, he said, and I won't stop you. Elena blinked. No one had ever said that to her. I won't stop you. Freedom offered, not taken. It felt suspicious. It felt impossible. And yet, something in Dante's face made her believe, for one terrifying second, that he meant it. Her legs trembled as she took a small step forward, then another. Dante didn't touch her again. He just turned and nodded to the door. Marco, he said into the hall, bring the car up and call Sophia. Marco's eyes widened slightly. Sophia, the doctor. Yes, Dante said. Elena flinched at the word doctor. No, she whispered, panicked. No hospitals, no records. Victor... Dante turned back, voice firm but calm. Not a hospital, a private physician, no paperwork. Elena's shoulders sagged with cautious relief. Dante grabbed his coat from the chair and draped it over his arm, then paused. He looked at Elena's hands. May I? He asked, nodding toward her coat. Elena blinked. What? Your coat, he clarified. It's wet. You're shaking. Elena hesitated, then slowly slipped it off. Dante took it carefully as if it might break and handed her his coat instead. It was warm, heavy. It smelled faintly like cedar and something darker, like smoke that had learned manners. Elena held it against herself like a shield. Dante didn't miss the way she kept her injured wrist tucked close, protected. They moved through the hallway. Men stepped aside without question. Doors opened, elevators waited, but Elena still felt like prey walking through a predator's territory. Every sound made her jump. Every shadow looked like Victor, and Dante walked beside her, silent like a storm held on a leash. In the elevator, Elena's eyes flicked to the security camera and she stiffened. Dante noticed. He reached up and with one simple motion, turned the camera away. Elena stared at him, stunned. Dante didn't look at her. Breathe, he said softly. Elena tried, but breathing didn't erase fear. It just made room for it. Outside, the night was cold and wet. A sleek black car waited, engine humming low. Elena's stomach twisted. Cars like this didn't mean safety in her world. They meant disappearing. Dante opened the door himself. Elena froze. Dante met her gaze. If you want to run, he said quietly, run now. Elena's chest tightened. Run where? Back to Victor's grip? Back to shaking hands and whispered threats? Back to the life where her wrist was someone else's possession? She stepped into the car. The door closed with a soft, final click that sounded like a decision. As they pulled away, Elena stared out the window at the neon blur of the city. Dante sat across from her, watching her without crowding. Minutes passed in silence, heavy with unspoken things. Finally, Elena whispered, "What are you going to do?" Dante's gaze didn't move from her wrist. "I'm going to find your brother," he said, "and then I'm going to find Victor Kane." Elena's throat tightened. "And then?" Dante's voice dropped. "Then I'm going to teach him what it feels like," he said, "to be afraid of the wrong person." Elena flinched, not because she didn't want Victor punished, but because she'd seen what vengeance did to men. It didn't heal them. It hollowed them out. Dante must have seen the fear in her eyes because his next words surprised her. "I won't do it for pleasure," he said quietly. "I'll do it for protection." Elena swallowed. "There's a difference?" Dante's jaw tightened. "There has to be," he said. The car climbed into quieter streets away from the noise. Gates opened. Trees swallowed the city lights. A mansion appeared behind iron bars, dark and silent like a sleeping beast. Elena's heart slammed. Dante noticed. "No one comes here without my permission," he said, "not even my men." "That's supposed to comfort me?" Elena whispered. Dante looked at her, eyes darker now, almost human. "It's supposed to tell you," he said, "that I'm the one who decides what happens to you here." Elena's breath caught. That should have terrified her. And part of her was terrified. But another part, the part that had been screaming for someone, anyone, to take control away from Victor, felt something dangerous. Relief. They entered through a side door. The house was quiet, warm, filled with soft lamps instead of harsh lights. A woman in her 40s appeared in the hallway, elegant, sharp-eyed, with the calm authority of someone who had survived powerful men without losing herself. She looked at Dante. "You called?" Dante nodded. "Sophia, this is Elena." Sophia's gaze softened instantly when she saw Elena's posture. The hiding, the trembling. She didn't ask questions out loud. She simply held her hands out. "Elena," Sophia said gently, "come with me. We'll check those wrists and make sure nothing's broken." Elena hesitated, eyes darting to Dante. Dante gave a small nod. "I'll be right here." Elena followed Sophia down the hall. In a warm room that smelled like clean linen and tea, Sophia carefully rolled Elena's sleeve up. Elena squeezed her eyes shut, shame burning. The marks looked worse under bright light. Sophia's mouth tightened, but her voice stayed gentle. "How long?" Elena's voice cracked. "It doesn't matter." Sophia looked at her steady. "It matters because you matter." Elena blinked, stunned. No one said that. Not when you were useful. Not when you were in debt. Sophia wrapped Elena's wrist with soft gauze, then placed a warm cup in her hands. "Drink," she said, slowly. Elena sipped, hands shaking. Sophia sat across from her. "Is he dangerous?" she asked quietly, meaning Victor. Elena let out a shaky breath. "Yes." Sophia nodded like she'd expected that. "Then you did the hardest thing already." Elena frowned. "What?" Sophia's gaze was kind but fierce. "You asked for help." Elena's eyes burned. She didn't cry. Not yet. Because crying felt like surrender. But her chest ached tight with things she'd buried. When Sophia left, Elena stepped back into the hallway and found Dante leaning against the wall like he'd been waiting in silence the whole time. His eyes landed on the bandage. Something dark flashed in him. He forced his voice calm. "Better?" Elena nodded barely. Dante pushed off the wall. "You're staying here tonight." Elena stiffened. "I can't. Victor, he won't get through my gates," Dante said. Elena's eyes were wide. "You don't know him." Dante stepped closer, careful. "You don't know me either," he said quietly. "But you came anyway." Elena swallowed. "Why are you like this?" she whispered. Dante's gaze dropped like the question hit something old inside him. "My sister," he said, voice low. "She hid bruises too." Elena's breath caught. Dante's hands flexed once at his sides. "And I was too late." Silence filled the hallway. Elena stared at him, something shifting in her chest. The feared man in the city had once been a boy who couldn't save the person he loved. Dante looked up, eyes hard again, because softness was dangerous. "I won't be late twice," he said. That night, Elena lay in a guest room that felt too luxurious for someone like her. The sheets were soft, the silence was heavy, but peace didn't come just because the room was quiet. Her mind played Victor's voice on repeat. "You're late, you're mine, I'll snap the wrist you touched." Elena stared at the ceiling until her eyes blurred. A knock came softly at the door. Elena's whole body froze. Then Dante's voice, low and calm. "It's me." Elena's chest tightened. She sat up. "What?" The door opened slowly. Dante stood in the doorway holding a glass of water and something else. Small, folded. He didn't step in. He just waited, giving her space. "You didn't drink enough," he said, setting the water on a table near the door. Then he held up the folded item. "A phone," he said. "New number, untracked. If you need to call your brother, you can." Elena stared at it like it was a miracle and a threat at the same time. "You're giving me a phone?" she whispered. Dante's mouth twitched, almost a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm giving you a choice," he said. Elena's throat tightened. "Why?" Dante's gaze held hers. "Because control was taken from you," he said, "and I know what it does to a person." He paused, voice softer. "And because when you shook earlier, it made me realize something." Elena's breath caught. Dante's eyes darkened with honesty. "I don't just want to destroy Victor Kane," he said. "I want to make sure you never have to flinch again." Elena's eyes burned. She couldn't speak. Dante nodded once, as if accepting her silence as an answer. "I'll be outside," he said, "if you need anything." He started to close the door. Elena's voice broke out before she could stop it. Dante? He paused. Elena swallowed hard. What if I'm the reason he comes for you? Dante looked back at her. His voice was quiet, unwavering. Then he comes for me, Dante said, and learns what happens when you chase someone into my house. The door closed gently. Elena sat in the dark, clutching the new phone, feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time. Not safety. Not yet, but the beginning of it. And isn't that how healing starts? Not with certainty, but with one moment where someone proves you're worth protecting. The next morning brought news like thunder. Dante found Elena in the kitchen with Sophia, staring at her hands like she didn't know what to do with them when they weren't busy surviving. Dante's face was controlled, but his eyes were sharp. "We have your brother," he said. Elena shot up so fast the chair scraped the floor. "You, what?" Dante held up a hand. "Alive, unhurt." Elena's knees nearly gave out. She pressed a hand to her mouth, tears rising fast now, unstoppable. Dante watched her carefully. Then he added quieter, "Victor Kane had him in an apartment across town. 2 guards. They're gone." Elena's voice shook. "Gone?" Dante didn't give details. He didn't need to. Elena wrapped her arms around herself, trembling. Sophia touched her shoulder gently. "He's safe," she murmured. Elena nodded, tears spilling now, hot and humiliating. Dante's gaze softened in a way that hurt. "He's at one of my safe houses," Dante said. "You can see him today, but first..." Elena's stomach dropped. "First what?" Dante's voice lowered. "First, you tell me what Victor wanted from my club." Elena froze. The relief in her chest twisted into fear. Because this was the part where the cost came. This was where the kindness turned into a transaction. Elena's voice turned small. "I told you. A file. A list." Dante stepped closer, not threatening but firm. "Elena," he said, "I'm not Victor. I'm not asking to own you." His eyes narrowed. "But if you're in my world now, you have to stop lying to survive." Elena swallowed, shaking. Finally, she whispered, "He wanted proof." Dante's gaze sharpened. "Of what?" Elena's eyes flicked away. "That you're not as clean as people think." Silence fell. Dante didn't react outwardly, but something dark shifted under his calm. Elena forced herself to continue, voice trembling. "Victor has connections. He's building a case, not for justice, for control. He wants leverage over you." "Over everyone." Dante's jaw flexed. "And he used you," Dante said. Elena nodded, shame burning her skin. "He said if I brought him what he needed," Elena whispered, "he would erase my debt. Let my brother go, and he," her voice cracked, "and if I didn't, he'd make sure I never use my hands again." Dante's eyes dropped to her bandaged wrist. A low sound left his throat, anger restrained so tightly it almost sounded like pain. Elena's eyes filled again. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry. I don't want to hurt you. I didn't want any of this." Dante looked at her for a long moment. Then he spoke quietly. "I believe you," he said. Elena blinked, stunned. Dante's voice stayed steady. "But believing you doesn't change what Victor is doing," he added. "It changes how we stop him." Elena's breath shook. "We?" Dante met her gaze. "Yes," he said. "We." And just like that, Elena felt the world tilt, because she wasn't alone in it anymore. Later, when Elena saw her brother, Matteo, alive, trembling but safe, something inside her finally broke open. She held him like she could stitch time back together with her arms. Matteo clung to her, voice shaking. "Lena, I thought you were gone." Elena sobbed into his shoulder. I'm here, I promise." Dante watched from a distance, silent. His men stood around like shadows, respectful, keeping space. And Elena realized something terrifying. Dante's world was violent. But in this moment, he had created a pocket of peace inside it. As the days passed, Victor didn't stay quiet. Threats came in different forms. A dead bouquet left at the gate. A message slipped under a door at Elena's old apartment. "Run back to me." And then, one night, the power in the mansion cut out. Darkness swallowed the halls. Elena jolted awake, heart pounding, footsteps, soft, controlled. Her body went cold. She grabbed the lamp like a weapon and backed toward the wall. The door creaked. A shadow filled it. Elena's breath stopped. Then Dante's voice cut through the dark. "Elena." he said low. It's me. Her knees nearly buckled in relief. Dante stepped in, holding a small flashlight, scanning the room with the predator's focus. Stay behind me, he murmured. Elena's throat tightened. Is he here? Dante didn't answer right away, which was answer enough. He moved through the room, checking the window, the balcony, the closet, fast, silent, lethal. Elena watched him, trembling. What happens when the monster the world fears becomes your only shelter? Dante returned to her, eyes dark. Someone breached the outer fence, he said. They didn't get inside. Elena's voice cracked. Victor. Dante nodded once. Elena's hand shook so hard the lamp rattled. Dante noticed. He reached out, slowly, then stopped himself. He didn't touch her without permission. Instead, he spoke softly. Look at me, he said. Elena forced her eyes up. Dante's voice was steady, grounding. You are safe in this room, he said. You hear me? Elena nodded, barely breathing. Dante's gaze softened just a fraction. May I? He asked gently, nodding toward her wrist. Elena hesitated, then she slowly held her arm out. Dante's fingers brushed the bandage like it was sacred. Elena flinched, then realized she hadn't flinched because she feared him. She flinched because she feared the memory. Dante's hand paused. His voice dropped into something vulnerable. I hate that he taught your body to fear touch, Dante said. Elena's eyes burned. Dante lifted his gaze to hers. I can't erase it, he said, but I can prove something new. Elena's voice trembled. What? Dante's thumb lightly, carefully traced the edge of the bandage. That not all hands take, he said. Some hands protect. Elena swallowed hard. Then, without thinking, she whispered the truth she'd been holding back like poison. I went to your club because I thought you'd kill me, Elena admitted, voice breaking, and for a second, I wanted that more than going back to him. Silence crushed the room. Dante's face went very still. Then his voice came out rough. Don't ever say that again, he murmured. Elena blinked, tears spilling. Dante's jaw flexed. His eyes looked almost haunted. You don't get to leave that way, he said. Not after you made it this far. Elena's breath shook. Why do you care? Dante stared at her like the answer hurt. Because I recognize the look in your eyes, he said quietly. The one that says you've accepted pain as your future. He swallowed. And because I can't watch it happen again, Elena's voice cracked. Your sister. Dante flinched, just once. Then he nodded, almost imperceptible. Elena's chest tightened. She reached out slowly, hesitant, scared, then placed her fingertips lightly on Dante's sleeve. Not his skin, just fabric. A test. Dante didn't move. He didn't grab her. He didn't claim her. He just stood there, letting her choose. Elena whispered, I don't know how to be safe. Dante's voice softened. Then we learn, he said. Right here, if you're still with me, take a second and like this video. And if you love intense Mafia romance stories with real emotion and real stakes, subscribe and turn on the bell. Now comment below. What would you do in Elena's place? Run, fight, or trust him? I want to read your answers. After the break-in, Dante stopped waiting. He moved like a man who had decided time was a luxury he didn't have. He didn't go after Victor with wild violence. He went after him with strategy. Elena watched Dante make calls in quiet rooms, his voice low, controlled, turning the city like a lock with the right keys. She saw men come and go, whispers exchanged, maps unfolded, but she also saw something else. Dante checked on Matteo every day. He asked Sofia about Elena's sleep. He made sure Elena ate. And every time Elena startled, every time her body betrayed her with fear, Dante didn't mock it. He respected it. One evening, Elena found Dante alone in the study staring at an old photograph. She paused in the doorway. Dante didn't look up. You can come in, he said, voice quiet. Elena stepped inside. The room smelled like leather and old books, like history and secrets. Elena glanced at the photograph. A teenage Dante stood beside a girl with bright eyes and a shy smile. His sister. Elena's throat tightened. She was beautiful. Dante's voice went rough. She was kind. Elena hesitated. What happened? Dante stared at the photo like it could accuse him. I was building my empire, he said quietly. I thought money was protection. I thought power was enough, he swallowed. And I didn't see the monster in our own house. Elena's chest tightened. Dante's hands clenched into fists. By the time I found out, she didn't trust anyone, not even me. His voice dropped. She died thinking she was alone. Elena's eyes burned. Dante finally looked at her. And when I saw you shake, he said, I heard her again. Elena's voice trembled. Dante! Dante's jaw flexed, anger and grief trapped together. I built this world to make sure no one could hurt the people I care about, he said, and yet Victor Kane still managed to put his hands on you. Elena swallowed. He's not your fault. Dante's eyes darkened. He is my problem. Elena stepped closer, heart pounding. What are you going to do? She whispered. Dante's gaze held hers. I'm going to end him, Dante said, but not the way he expects. The trap was set 2 nights later. Elena didn't know the full plan. Dante wouldn't let her carry that weight, but she knew one thing. Victor would come. Because Victor didn't just want leverage, he wanted Elena back. Not out of love, out of possession. A message went out through the city's invisible channels. Dante was moving evidence from the club, something Victor desperately wanted. Victor took the bait. The meeting location was an abandoned theater on the edge of downtown. Empty seats, torn velvet curtains, dust and darkness and echoes. Elena insisted on coming. Dante refused. Elena stood in front of him, shaking but firm. I won't be a pawn anymore, she said. I won't hide while men decide my life. Dante's eyes narrowed. It's dangerous. Elena's voice broke, but she didn't step back. So was breathing with him, she whispered, and I did that alone. Dante went still. Then quietly, he nodded once. Stay beside me, he said, no matter what. Elena nodded, heart hammering. Inside the theater, the air was cold and stale. Dante's men were hidden in shadows. Elena stood close to Dante, her bandaged wrist tucked into her sleeve, her body tense. Every creak made her flinch. Then footsteps echoed from the aisle, slow, confident, like the building belonged to him. Victor Kane emerged from the darkness wearing a tailored coat and a calm smile. He looked like a man who belonged in a courtroom, not a crime scene. His eyes landed on Elena instantly, and the smile widened. There you are, Victor said softly, as if speaking to a pet that ran away. Elena's stomach turned. Dante moved slightly forward, blocking Victor's line of sight. Victor's gaze lifted to Dante, amused. So it's true, Victor murmured. Dante Moretti playing savior. Dante's voice was ice. You put your hands on someone under my protection. Victor chuckled. Protection. He tasted the word like it was funny. Is that what you call it? Or is she just your newest toy? Elena's body trembled. Dante didn't glance back, but his voice lowered, meant only for her. Breathe, he murmured. Stay with me. Victor's eyes flicked to Elena again. Come here, he said, gentle as a threat. Elena didn't move. Victor sighed dramatically. Elena, do you really think he cares? Men like Dante don't protect, they collect. Elena's chest tightened. Then Dante spoke, voice calm but deadly. You chose the wrong woman to threaten, Dante said. Victor's brows lifted. Oh? Dante's gaze was steady. Because she's not alone anymore. Victor's smile faded, just slightly. And you, Dante continued, chose the wrong man to test. Victor's eyes hardened. You don't scare me. Dante nodded once. That's why you're standing in my trap. Victor's jaw clenched. You think you can outplay me? Victor hissed. I have people in your business, in your clubs, in your books. I have proof that can bury you. Dante's voice stayed even. And I have proof, Dante said, that can bury you first. Victor froze. Dante gestured slightly. A screen flickered on above the stage. An old projector system brought back to life. Video played. Victor's face appeared on the screen in grainy footage, speaking to men, exchanging envelopes, giving orders, not just threats. Evidence! Victor's eyes widened, then narrowed into fury. Elena stared at the screen, shocked. Dante didn't look away from Victor. You wanted leverage, Dante said quietly, so I gave you enough rope. Victor's voice turned sharp. Where did you get that? Dante stepped closer, eyes cold. From someone you thought you owned, Dante said, then softer to Elena. You were never his. You hear me? Elena's breath caught. Victor's gaze snapped to Elena, rage boiling. You did this? Victor spat. After everything Dante moved like lightning. He didn't punch Victor. He didn't shoot. He grabbed Victor by the collar and slammed him back against a pillar with enough force to make dust fall from the ceiling. Victor gasped, eyes wide. Dante's face was inches from his. His voice was low, vibrating with restrained violence. "You don't get to say everything I did like it was a gift," Dante growled. "You don't get to act like pain is payment." Victor's lips curled. "You're still a criminal, Dante. You're still—" Dante tightened his grip. "I'm a criminal," Dante said, "but I have rules." His eyes burned. "And one of them is this. I don't break women to feel powerful." Victor's throat bobbed. "So what? You're a saint now?" Dante's gaze flicked to Elena. Something softened for a split second. Then he looked back at Victor, colder than before. "No," Dante said. "I'm worse than a saint." He leaned in. "I'm the consequence." Victor's men moved from the shadows, guns raised. Dante's men answered. The theater filled with tension, a frozen breath before chaos. Elena's heart pounded so hard she thought it might explode. Dante didn't move away from Victor. He spoke, calm, commanding. "Lower them," Dante ordered his men. "No shots." Marco's voice snapped from the shadows. "Boss!" "No shots," Dante repeated. Elena stared at him, shocked. Dante wasn't choosing violence. He was choosing control. Victor laughed, strained. "Afraid to pull the trigger?" Dante's voice was ice. "I'm refusing to become you." Victor's smile faltered. Dante released Victor abruptly. Victor stumbled, coughing, furious. Dante stepped back and gestured toward the screen again. "Every file, every video, every witness statement," Dante said, "goes to people who hate you more than they hate me." Victor's eyes widened. "You wouldn't—" Dante tilted his head. "You're not untouchable," Dante said. "You just convinced weaker people you were." Victor's gaze flicked to Elena again, calculating. Then Victor moved. Fast. He lunged toward Elena, hand reaching for her wrist like it belonged to him. Elena's body froze, terror slamming through her. But this time, before Victor's fingers could close, Dante stepped between them. Dante caught Victor's wrist in midair, hard. Victor hissed in pain. Dante's voice dropped into a growl that made the whole room feel smaller. "Touch her," Dante said, "and you lose that hand." Victor's eyes burned. "You're obsessed." Dante's grip tightened. "No," Dante said, deadly calm. "I'm awake." Then Dante shoved Victor back, not brutal, not gory, just enough to send him stumbling into the dust. Victor's men hesitated, seeing the balance shift, because fear is a currency, and Dante Moretti owned the market. Victor glared up, breathing hard. Dante looked down at him. His voice was quiet now. "You're done," Dante said. Victor's smile turned desperate and cruel. "You think she'll love you for this? She'll always be broken. She'll always—" Elena's voice cut through the theater like a blade. "Stop!" Everyone froze. Elena stepped forward, trembling, tears in her eyes. Victor's grin returned, hungry. Elena's hands shook, but her voice grew stronger. "You don't get to define me," Elena said. "You don't get to decide what I become." Victor scoffed. "You're nothing without me." Elena's tears fell, but her gaze held. "Then watch me be nothing," she whispered, "and still survive." Victor's face twisted with fury. Dante's eyes stayed on Elena, something fierce and proud flickering there. And in that moment, Elena realized being protected wasn't the only thing healing her. Being seen was. Victor Kane was escorted out alive, not because Dante couldn't destroy him, but because Dante chose a punishment Victor couldn't fight with: intimidation, exposure, consequences, the kind that followed you into every room. When it was over, Elena stood outside the theater with cold air filling her lungs, trembling like she'd run a marathon made of fear. Dante approached slowly. He didn't touch her right away. He waited. Elena's eyes met his. Her voice was small. "Is it over?" Dante's gaze softened, but his answer was honest. "It's not over," Dante said quietly, "but you're not alone for the rest of it." Elena's breath shook. Dante lifted his hand slowly. "May I?" he asked. Elena stared at his hand, open, offering, not taking. Then, with a trembling inhale, she placed her bandaged wrist gently into his palm. Dante's fingers closed around it, careful, warm. Elena didn't shake, not this time. Dante's voice dropped, raw and vulnerable. "You're safe," he murmured, and if your body forgets that sometimes, I'll remind it. Elena's tears spilled freely now. She whispered, I don't know how to accept this. Dante's throat bobbed. Neither do I, he admitted, but I want to try. Elena laughed through tears, shaky and real. Why? She whispered again. Why me? Dante looked at her like the answer was terrifying. Because you walked into my office with fear in your eyes and still tried to do the right thing, he said. Because you were shaking and still chose not to become him. He swallowed. And because when I touched your wrist, I realized I'd rather burn my whole empire down than let you go back to that. Elena's breath caught. She stared at him, stunned. Can a broken heart really heal in the arms of someone even more broken? Maybe healing isn't about finding someone perfect. Maybe it's about finding someone who doesn't run from your scars. Back at the mansion, the nights grew quieter. Not peaceful. Peace takes time, but quieter. Elena started sleeping more than an hour at a time. She started walking without looking over her shoulder every second. Matteo laughed again, small at first, then real. And Dante stayed close, not like a jailer, like a guardian trying to learn gentleness. One evening, Elena stood on the balcony with a cup of tea, watching the city lights flicker like distant stars. Dante joined her, silent. Elena glanced at him. Are you okay? Dante let out a breath like a tired man. No, he admitted. Elena's chest tightened. Because of Victor? Dante nodded slightly. Then he looked at her wrist. Because of what he did to you, Dante said. Because I can't undo it. Elena's voice was quiet, but you didn't add to it. Dante's eyes lifted. Elena swallowed, then whispered, That matters. Dante stared at her like he didn't know how to hold kindness without crushing it. Then slowly he reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. A thin bracelet. Simple. Silver. He held it out. Elena, he said softly, I won't promise the world. I can't. He hesitated. But I can promise this. He lifted his gaze, voice steady. No one owns you, Dante said. Not him, not me, not anyone. Elena's eyes filled. She whispered, Then why the bracelet? Dante's mouth twitched, almost a smile. A reminder, he said. Not of me. He paused. Of you, he finished. Of the moment you stopped being his. Elena's hands shook as she took it. Dante didn't put it on her. He waited. Elena wrapped it around her own wrist over the bandage. A choice, a claim, her own. Dante watched, something like relief crossing his face. Elena whispered, voice trembling, What happens now? Dante's gaze drifted to the city. Now, he said, we rebuild what he tried to steal. Elena's throat tightened. And Victor? Dante's eyes darkened. Victor will try again, Dante admitted. Men like him don't accept losing. Elena's chest tightened. Dante looked at her, voice low. But he made one mistake, Dante said. Elena swallowed. What? Dante's gaze held hers, fierce and certain. He reminded me what I'm capable of, Dante said. And he reminded you what you're worth. Elena exhaled shakily. The wind moved her hair cool against her cheeks. And for the first time, the city didn't feel like a cage. It felt like a battlefield she might actually survive. Because somewhere in the darkness, a feared man was learning how to be gentle. And a broken woman was learning how to be free. So tell me, what happens when the monster the world fears becomes your shelter? What happens when protection isn't a chain, but a doorway? Maybe the story doesn't end when the villain falls. Maybe it begins when the victim stops calling herself one. And maybe, just maybe, Victor Kane wasn't the last ghost Elena would have to face. Because in Dante Moretti's world, shadows always return. But next time, Elena wouldn't be shaking alone. If this story moved you, please like the video. It helps more than you know. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell because this channel has new Mafia romance stories every day. And comment, I believe in second chances if you think people can heal, even after the darkest nights. And when you're done, go watch another video on the channel, especially one of our other intense Mafia love stories where a broken heart meets a dangerous protector and everything changes.